afternoon podcast. I've got a late breaking news story. Julian Assange, the founder of Wikileaks, has been arrested. Earlier today, I was talking with a lawyer, Vinoo Varghese. He is commonly on CNN, CBS. He was just on Wolf Blitzer. Usually, I have an editing process and it takes weeks for me to get episodes out. But because what we talked about for a portion of our interview, I'm going to just release that portion. So you're about to get input from a criminal defense attorney about the arrest of Julian Assange and an excerpt essentially of the interview that him and I had. We will release the full interview in a few weeks. For now, I wanted to get this out because it was so timely and newsworthy. So please stay tuned. This is late breaking news, and this is an interview that I had with a criminal defense attorney who's commonly on mainstream media discussing what just happened with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. Stay tuned. I'd love to ask you a little bit about something that actually just happened today just before we were recording this. Is Julian Assange got arrested. And then we also had Chelsea Manning arrested again for refusing to testify against Assange, potentially knowing that Assange was potentially going to be handed over to the UK authorities. What are your thoughts? Is Julian Assange going to get extradited to the US? Is this going to go to court? What's about to happen here?
I pulled the indictment that was released, and it looks, and the reason. So your question of is he going to get extradited? The answer is going to be yes. Right? Mm-hmm. Is the British government is certainly going to give him to the United States government. It's just it's going to happen. They wouldn't have unsealed this indictment if that weren't going to happen, because there has to be a formal indictment in order for the State Department to make the extradition request and file that with the government of the in the United Kingdom.
And so they showed their hand by going after Chelsea Manning and trying to get her to testify against Assange. Why do that if you're not going to be prosecuting Assange?
Right, and here's the same. So she's being held for civil contempt, mm-hmm. right? So because she's already been found guilty, right? She was found guilty, and her sentence was commuted by President Obama, right? That was one of his last acts. But so she has no Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination because she can't incriminate herself. By refusing to testify, she's being held in civil contempt for mm-hmm. not cooperating with the investigation because she can't plead the Fifth.
Yeah.
There's no Fifth for her. She's already been found guilty. So.
Yeah. That's crazy. So back to Assange, what is there a legal precedent here for, I mean, personally, I make the argument that he's a journalist. I mean, did he take, potentially leaked and or stolen files? Yes. I mean, I think we've concluded due to the Mueller report that the Russian collusion narrative is kind of not what we thought it was. And it's now potentially likely that WikiLeaks may have gotten the DNC files that during the 2016 election from an inside source. I've personally reviewed the data on how that, what went down there. There is evidence that it was a thumb drive that was plugged into a DNC computer, and that was the source of the leak. And it wasn't a traditional hack in the sense that, someone who is remotely outside the network got access to the network. It was more likely that someone physically had access to it. So we obviously don't know, this is speculation, right, what the details are there. But, is there a legal precedent for, a journalist or a journalism organization to release leaked files? And, will he have the same protections as a journalist, or is he considered not a journalist?
So the interesting thing, I'm looking at the indictment, and before I get to that question, I want to address something you just said about the Mueller report. Let's be clear here, and people are jumping at this. Mueller report still hasn't been released to Congress, right? There's been a summary put forth by the Attorney General, who, at the time of our filming of this, as the previous 2 days had testified before Congress, and Bob Mueller, the prosecutor, did not find evidence sufficient to warrant prosecution. Mm-hmm. The idea of collusion of individuals of the Trump campaign colluding with the Russian government, right? that just means that there wasn't enough proof from his perspective to bring a case. The obstruction charges, as he said, he was not exonerated.
Yeah.
Barr made the decision to exonerate him. So this is long, far from over, and it's going to be developed. And the narrative may not be anywhere near what President Trump has said in terms of total incarceration once this gets to Congress. Now, getting back to Assange in terms of precedent and all this other stuff, I'm going to read you what it says here in the indictment. And this is out of the Eastern District of Virginia, which is considered one of the top prosecutorial, which is Northern Virginia. It's kind of one of the top prosecutors' offices in the country. It's where Paul Manafort was recently prosecuted. Paragraph 5 of the indictment says, Assange, when it talked about him being the founder and leader of the WikiLeaks website, publicly solicited submissions of classified, censored, and other restricted information. Assange, who did not possess a security clearance or need to know, was not authorized to receive classified information of the United States. So the charge is conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. That's what they've charged him with. And this is just an initial charging document. I imagine there's going to be more charges against him. They're going to supersede this this indictment against him, or and they'll add more charges depending on when he gets over. Yeah. So there's stuff about here in this about Manning and Assange discuss the value of the Guantanamo Bay detainee assessment briefs before entering the password cracking agreement, and there's a lot of stuff in here.
Well, there's two issues, because there's the Chelsea Manning situation, right? So there's the information that Chelsea gave to WikiLeaks that basically revealed a lot of information about the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, and that revealed a bunch of cables and a bunch of private and classified communications and all kinds of classified information about wars that were taking place. So that's one issue. Then the second, more recent issue was what happened during the 2016 election with John Podesta's emails, the DNC emails. And that probably had a direct impact on the 2016 election and potentially did help Trump get elected, because a lot of that content from those leaks, it made a pretty unique, it painted a very unique picture of the inside of a political campaign that we've never had insight to before. So I personally read through a lot of the files because I got to look inside a presidential campaign. Like, that's a window that I wanted to peep into. We've never seen what that looks like before, and we'll probably never get to see something like this again in U.S. political history.
Right.
So it was fascinating because it did talk about a lot of different things. Potentially the Bernie Sanders issue of, was he the real nominee? Did Hillary Clinton, sway the Democrats and superdelegates and manipulate that system? Like, there's some real controversy here. There were some real things that, were revealed that probably had an impact on the way that some people voted. So that's the second most recent issue. But I think probably a lot of the charges that are going to be brought against Assange are going to be for the Chelsea Manning issue and the first issue, which was, the leaking of classified information regarding wars in, Iraq and Afghanistan.
So right now, as of the moment that we're filming this on April 11th, 2019, the only thing that's been released to the public is that computer hacking conspiracy with Chelsea Manning. So it does not appear as of yet there are charges related to the 2016 election against Julian Assange. Now, that could change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once he's brought over.
And I wonder if there is some connection to all of this and the Mueller report, because there could be, since we haven't been able to read it, at least at the time of when this is being recorded. So, like I said, the fact that Chelsea Manning was arrested and, they were trying to get her to testify, a month or so ago, tells us that they were, the prosecutors were potentially knew that they were going to be prosecuting Assange at some point in the near future. So it sounds like this has all been in motion for a while.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this about the Mueller report. you're not going to know the answer to that question. Because that's, if it's an ongoing investigation, that is definitely not getting to Congress.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that as well. Thanks for listening. This has been a special episode of the Hacker Noon podcast. Please make sure to follow us on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play. You can follow me at Trent Lipinski on Twitter and follow us at Hacker Noon on Twitter. We also have community.hackernoon.com if you want to discuss the content of this story and other stories. So please come check us out, and we'll catch you later.